but I got the report right here. Moving on to the second topic of the day. It says Man of Steel writer explains why DCEU failed to catch up with the MCU. And this is interesting to me because it's actually David S. Goyer who said this, and we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper in a second. But Man of Steel writer David S. Goyer explains why Warner Brothers DCEU has failed to catch up with Marvel Studios' Marvel Cinematic Universe. David S. Goyer, the writer of Man of Steel, offers an explanation why the DC Extended Universe has failed to catch up with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Launched in 2008, Marvel Studios released the first film in Iron Man, putting its hopes of building an interconnected franchise on the backs of director Jon Favreau and Robert Downey Jr. Luckily, it became a hit that allowed them to continue growing the MCU to the known franchise it is today. It's not perfect by all means, with several recurring criticisms throughout the Infinity Saga. However, due to the massive popularity that it now enjoys, almost every single studio is now looking to emulate it, which is very, very true. And so let me go ahead and bring up this first quote right here. And he goes on to say, I think one of the issues is that Marvel's had consistent leadership for the last 15 years or more, whereas DC hasn't. There hasn't been all of these changes in the terms of who's running DC. That is fundamentally very hard. It's hard to make any headway when leadership is changing. One of the other things that made Marvel incredibly successful is all of their adaptations are true to the source material. Yep. Ant-Man feels like Ant-Man. The Hulk feels like Hulk. They don't try to change things up. I would say trying to hew closer to what the original intent. So it's having a consistent universe, having consistent leadership, and staying true to the source material. Elliot, I'm pretty confident that you know well about who David S. Goyer is. Mm-hmm. And how do you feel about his comments about the DCEU failing compared to Marvel?
There's a little bit of truth in that. I mean, honestly, like he said, I mean, the consistency is definitely, the Marvel has a cheat code. They have 10 years of films, and then like you said, they don't say completely true to the source material, but they keep the foundation of what we know from the characters. And even though I love me some DCEU, obviously Zack Snyder's universe and different other characters, they've definitely taken a different approach than what we're used to. But as far as this whole DC and Marvel, I mean, hopefully what the DCEU is looking like moving forward, we hopefully can get some consistency, because one thing he didn't mention in the article is, even though Marvel had Kevin Feige for the last 13 years, DC has had something that Marvel hasn't had, which is all their characters. And they seem to always want to use one main character. He's my favorite character, Batman, but that's the only thing that DC and Warner Brothers can do is make Batman. And now we'll talk about it later, but we're going to get 13 Superman coming pretty soon. But it's just, that's the thing that kills me about DC, man. They have every single character under one roof, and they can't seem to get any of them off the ground except for the Man in Black. So there's a lot of truth to what he's saying, but just like the previous article we talked about, David Goyer has had some interesting ups and downs in his career, and it's always interesting to hear, someone's opinion who hasn't been part of the DC universe since 2013. So it's always one of those things where it's just like, hey, you know what you're talking about there, David? Or are you just kind of chopping at the bits? But like I said, there's some truth in what he's saying, but hopefully the DCEU can turn it around in the next few years.
Yeah, he has the credits.
He does.
I used to like him a lot. I don't like him anymore. He was really disrespectful a few years ago to some fans. Something like saying, okay, if you're a comic book fan out there and you know who Martian the Manhunter is, that means that you don't get any ass, you don't get no girls or girlfriends or something like that. He made it to where he says a comment to where if you're a big comic book nerd, you get no play from like the opposite sex or whatever. I was like, what? I could be wrong. I think he said that live during a panel.
Well, how the hell he getting ass?
Bro, it was
probably not. That's probably why he's doing all that. He's doing all that transference on people.
Right on. But Larry, go ahead, man. How you feel about all this?
I have to push back a little bit on what Elliot said. I think that DC has moved some of their other characters out there. I mean, I think we've all fallen in love with Harley Quinn over the last several years. They have made a concerted effort to bring her out. She's been out there and in the Batman movies. She's been out there with her own solo movie. She was out there as part of Suicide Squad. She'll be out there in the next Suicide Squad. I mean, we saw a couple years ago, every white chick on the planet was running around at Halloween with Daddy's Little Monster t-shirt on and pigtails. I think people have fully taken to Harley Quinn. Now, that's not really saying a whole lot when you think about all the other characters that Marvel has had out there. So, that's about as much of a defense of DC Quinn? As you're going to hear from me. Now, I don't want anybody to say that I'm just always hating on DC. I try to defend them, and that's about as best that I have right there. So, I mean, the reality of it is Marvel just does it better. And part of it is true is what they said. They have had consistent leadership. And as we know, what happens is in corporate situations, when people leave and someone else takes over, they like to try and come in and do their own thing and try and prove that their way is a better way. Instead of simply coming in and saying, okay, this is what they were doing. We're going to keep doing this, but we're going to find a better way to do it. And sometimes they just start scrapping stuff. And that's not always the best thing to do. You know, so I think that's what we're seeing on the DC side. Plus, we already know what happened with that one exec over there that was doing all kinds of shadiness, and with what's his name that played Cyborg. So I mean, they need a Kevin Feige over there, and I know Kevin Feige is taken, but I would almost say somebody who works for Kevin Feige, who has his same sort of philosophy, somebody who has come up under Kevin Feige, I would say might be really, really primed to take over at DC and become the executive producer for, in charge of the DC universe.
They could hire Kevin Feige. I know he's busy, but money talks. Money talks. And not in every industry, but for me, in my opinion, when it comes to films, movies, especially comic book superhero stuff, a rising tide raises all ships. Casual fans, we're more diehard over here, but casual fans, they don't distinguish too much between studios. A comic book movie is a comic book movie, a superhero movie is a superhero movie. And so if you have one or two that comes out in the road and it sucks ass from DC, but then a Marvel movie comes out and it's good, those people, those casual fans that was turned off by the first two DC are going to be turned off by the third Marvel movie that's good. And so we already got James Gunn going back and forth. They had Jeff Johns as a leader at one point, but that fell apart too. I think it's all the execs that don't know what the hell they're doing, and it also doesn't excuse bad writing. But it's not. I mean, Kevin Tushihara, the guy that was booted out from DC, was it 2017 because he rushed the Justice League release so that he can get like a Christmas bonus
and all that.
That was putting a 2-hour mandate, and so it's a lot of I guess leadership. Leadership. Go ahead.
I mean, it is true. You have to hire the best writers, and part of that is something that Marvel does, where they find young talent and they develop them, and that's really where you have to go nowadays. You can't just go say, okay, we're going to hire the best talent that's available out there right now, because you have Marvel that you're contending with, and plus all the other DC films. You have Amazon Prime that's making all these deals with people. You have Netflix that's making all these deals with people. You have all the HBO Max stuff. You have Showtime. You have all these different content creators that are out there, these content producers that are saying we want the best writers, the best producers, and so you have to go out there on some level and find people that have created great projects that are maybe smaller and develop them, bring them in-house, and start developing them, lock them into contracts, say we want you in here for 5-6 movies, and maybe the first 2 movies that you give them are something smaller. Maybe you give them a TV series or something. Like I would be totally okay if they did something similar to what Marvel's doing right now with these with like the Marvel TV series with WandaVision and Falcon Winter. So I'd be just as fine if they did. I'd be happy if they did something similar to that on the DC side, especially to introduce some of the characters that Elliot was inferring about that we don't know. Bring them in, bring some of those characters in, tell us who they are, and then throw them up on the big screen. You're muted. You're muted, B.
Sorry. Lamont, I'm coming to you real quick. But Larry, is that your boy Kobe in the chat? I don't Kobe Vision?
He is in the chat. Why? What did he say?
No, I just want to make sure. Is that him, Kobe Vision?
Yeah, Kobe Vision, yeah.
What's up, Kobe? I just wanted to say what's up. How you doing? Also, what's up? I thought I saw Moochie in here. I gotta shout out the bits, but
Mozzarella?
There she go. What's up, Moochie? How you doing?
There she is.
Thank you so much for being
Moochie!
here. But Lamont, man, how you feeling about all this?
There was a lot of truth in what he said. But like you said, last subject, he's kind of the wrong messenger, but his insight was on point. And I'm going to say something that a lot of people saying in the chats. DC does put out great animated content. And I don't know if Larry's had an opportunity to check it out, but Warner Brothers does have these great series. Titans is a great DC series. Great DC series. I recommend you guys watch it. Season 3 is about to start right now.
I may start that tonight, man. The only reason I didn't start that is because when season 1 came out, I heard a whole bunch of people like, it sucks, it's sorry, it sucks.
No,
you know, and people was like making fun of it because I think Robin or something was like F Batman or something, and it came across as corny. And I was like, well, if it sucks, I'm not gonna check it out, but I'll check it out tonight.
Check it out so you can get the essence of the story. There's a reason why he said Batman sucked. B. Avery, I know you've either seen the cartoon or you read snippets of Batman Under the Red Hood. Have you seen the cartoon? Man,
I got that downstairs, bro. You know what I'm saying? Shit.
This is who we needed right here. Talking about DC, this is who we needed all along.
Hold on, finish your comment, Lamont. I don't want to have him waiting. I don't want to have him waiting, but
there's no way y'all can say I'm biased because look right over my shoulder right there. There's a big old DC poster that never comes off the wall. So I'm begging for these great movies too, but for whatever the reason, it just has not been able to translate on the big screen for DC. I'm sure some of it is they don't stick close to the source material. Some of it is they only want to keep making Batman movies, as Elliot said. But a lot of it is they just don't want to be consistent. Stay consistent. He talked about how they've had inconsistency with leadership. I don't know if people know, Marvel has had that. The person that Kevin Feige has had to answer to has changed twice. Yeah. And one of those people that Kevin Feige had to answer to, he didn't want no Black Panther. He didn't want anything woman-led, and he didn't want anything weird and quirky like Guardians of the Galaxy. Once that guy got out of Disney and the new guy came in, it let Kevin Feige have more creative control than what he put out. DC needs to follow that same script, and whoever does DC animated stuff, can you put stories together for the big screen? Having said that, welcome in One Take.
Yes, sir.
Can y'all do
anime? What's good?
Y'all hear me?
Yes,
yeah. Okay. I'm just making sure. Okay. We got
man.
I heard Lamont saying some crazy stuff right a minute before. I'm gonna have to address some of this now.
Go ahead.
Oh man. But listen, catch me up real quick. What's the subject we on right now?
We on let me pull it back up. This is the second topic of the day. David S. Goyer, you know, he be writing all that stuff for DC, you know, Man of Steel, Batman Begins, all that stuff. He was just talking about why he explains why the DCU has failed to catch up with the MCU. Basically, what he just said was it's just leadership. You know, they had a Kevin Feige, we didn't. There's some truth to that, but at the same time, it's not. And so, you know, we're just trying to, you know, get in where you fit in. How you feel about that as far as comments? I can pull the quote up again if you want me to.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
I think one of the issues is that Marvel had consistent leadership for the last 15 years or more, whereas DC hasn't. There have been all these changes in the terms of who's running DC. That is just fundamentally very hard. It's hard to make any headway when leadership is changing. One of the other things that made Marvel incredibly successful is all their adaptations are true to the source material. Ant-Man feels like Ant-Man, the Hulk feels like Hulk. They don't try to change things up, I would say. Try to hew closer to what's the original intent. So it's having a consistent universe, having consistent leadership, and staying true to the source material. And real quick, though, I was going to say, people forget that Marvel had horrible relationship with their directors and producers early on in phase 1 and 2. Alan Taylor, Thor: Dark World.
Wait. Wait. I know some of y'all hated that movie, but I was okay with it.
Man, we can talk about that later, bro. Because I disagree. Jesus Christ. Like, I'd rather say Jesus Christ is white than this movie is good.
I'd rather hear Larry talk about Killmonger all day.
Oh my God!
Come on, man. See, this is what it is. I don't even have to bring up the rightful ruler of Wakanda anymore because everyone else does it for me. Because everyone knows that Killmonger is the rightful ruler of Wakanda.
One time you got him started. I was just gonna say, Alan Taylor, he had full control over shooting the film Thor: The Dark World, but when it got into the editing room, they took complete control away from him. So that's jacked up. But anyway, one take. How you feeling?
I mean, that's where the story's told, is in the editing room.
True.
Yeah. I kind of agree with that. And I think at some point in time they tried to give the reins over to Zack Snyder, but I think it was kind of. But it's also on Warner Brothers. They tried to jump everything so fast. It's like, okay, we have to catch up immediately. So you throw Batman and a Superman movie. This is an undeveloped Batman. We just have to come in already. Well, if you don't read the source material, you're not necessarily a big fan. You don't realize what Batman they're adapting. So it's kind of weird, and like people obviously don't like it, and you have it's like they tried to build everything in reverse, Mm-hmm. So, and if you have somebody at the forefront, like, hey, this is all planned. Granted, plans obviously are going to change. Like you have to adapt to certain situations, like Marvel did when they got, they didn't necessarily know that for 100% they were gonna get Spider-Man, but they did. They was able to incorporate him well into the series. But DC never had that. DC just like, okay, Marvel is way ahead of us. Okay, they got started back when the Dark Knight trilogy was still going on, and then they just kept building and building, because I don't think anybody just thought those films were just the best thing in the world when they first came out. But then they just constantly kept building on them, and then you get to a point now where you have the Avengers films, and you got Guardians of the Galaxy bringing in characters people barely even know about. You build up so much like goodwill with people, they don't mind going to see it, and then you deliver on the product. DC wasn't doing that. DC just like, hey, we're gonna give you this, we're gonna give you this, and then they go back and start canceling stuff, and then you can tell, like, man, y'all ain't got it together at all. Y'all just throwing now it's like you throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks. And there was a point of time where I was looking back like, yo, I think they got it. Like they know what they coming out with. Things are they not announcing all this crazy stuff, and man, I don't think it was a month later. I think they started announcing Supergirl and I said, bro, we ain't got a Man of Steel. I'm just like, yo, you're not even focused on your core characters, not trying to do them justice. It's just like, man, it was just set up for failure. You had you had no leadership.
Right on. Well,
but, man. My bad for cussing y'all. My bad. I just Lamont, we're gonna have to have a conversation about Titans though, bro. We're gonna have to have a little conversation about Titans.
It's whack.
I ain't saying it's whack.
It's not whack.
I couldn't get into it. I'm more of a Doom Patrol fan, but I couldn't get into Titans.
And see, I couldn't get into Doom Patrol.
I really enjoy Doom Patrol. That's my show.
Yeah, I couldn't get into that.
I have to say,
Doom Patrol is dope.
Exactly. Whenever you have a show about characters that we knew, well, if you're not a hardcore like DC fan, you really don't know the Doom Patrol, and you get a show about them that's better than the Teen Titans.
Man,
come on.
So you mean to tell me that? And I'm assuming you've seen every season so far, right? You've seen season 2.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think season 2 picked up very well from what they left off of from season 1 of Titans?
I do, but let me tell you what Titans does that annoys me. Every time, Titans' best episodes is every time they introduce a new character. They have yet to let you build with the Titans. They always separated, and like you never really feel the camaraderie between the group. And that's why so many episodes you're introducing somebody new. And it hasn't found that flow yet.
I will definitely agree that they split the continuity of the team up often because somebody else is popping up. Now you got a team of 3 over here, which is basically what you're saying. And then you got Dick somewhere running off doing his own thing. I agree to that. But that still doesn't mean it sucks.
I didn't say it's up. I didn't say it's up. It's
okay.
And for a Titans fan, for a Titans series, you expected that to be like. Let me put it like this: it's not better than Arrow or the Flash or any. It might be better than Supergirl.
What? B. Avery is better than Arrow. It ain't better than the Flash. I will admit that, but it's better than the rest of that CW mess. It's better than the rest of it.
Is it better than Black Lightning?
No.
Okay, then I don't know if I can do it then if it ain't better than that. Yeah, I wasn't able to catch everything, but y'all make sure y'all respectful in the comments. Okay, so let's just be nice and all that good stuff. So
I want to see them bring out the Wonder Twins. I want to see Wonder Twin powers activate.
Don't say that. They got to move in development now since you just said it.
Do they really?
Yeah, man.
Are you serious?
No. We just we were talking about we were gonna fuck with Larry. We was gonna mess with Larry.
An ice dagger.
No,
a giant gorilla.